You're welcome back to your election headquarters here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. You're watching The Pulse. My name is Francis Haban, and we're still talking politics because today the flag bearer of the PPP, Dr. Nduom, has been busy touring certain parts of the Greater Accra region. He's expected to be in Nima in the next 20 minutes as he continues to sell his message, hoping to convince Ghanaians to vote for him in this year's elections. But we know that this will be his third time of asking. His first time was in the 2008 elections on the ticket of the CPP, and then in the last election, 2012, with his own party, he's formed the PPP, and he's looking to ask you again to vote for him in this year's elections. The big question is, where have we come from? Who is this man, Dr. Nduom, and why should Ghanaians even be considering him at a time like this to be the president of the nation? Just to bring you some of the information we've gathered today on the man, his track record from being an assembly member to a minister of state, and also chairing the NDPC sometimes. So that's the background for you. In 1997 to 2000, he was an assemblyman for the Commander Edna Iguafu-Abrim district in the Central Region. His active role in politics began in that year, in 97, when he was elected as a member of that district assembly for the Akontobinsin electoral area. In 2000, he contested for the parliamentary seat for the Commander Edna Iguafu-Abrim. He lost after contesting for the first time on the ticket of the CPP. The incumbent NDC MP at the time, Atokwashi, won by a 2.6% margin of the valid votes cast. That would be ahead of all the other contenders in that election. But after that, he continued his life in politics. In 2001, shortly after the president, John Kufuor, was elected and sworn in, Dr. Nduom was appointed as the chairman of the National Development Planning Commission, where he served in that capacity until in 2003, after a cabinet reshuffle in April, Dr. Nduom became the Minister for Energy. In 2004, the MP for he contested to be the MP for the Commander Edna Iguafu-Abrim, asked for the second time, and on that occasion he won by some 15,000, a little over 15,000 votes, which represented 33.6% of the vote cast. Now that will be interesting also, because in 2004, in that election, he won not by a simple majority, but by that margin, 33.6%. That will be key in the analysis we'll do shortly with the head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, in just a moment. And then in 2005, in President Kufuor's second term, he was again appointed Minister for Public Sector Reform. He served in that capacity until in 2007, when he resigned from that position to contest as a presidential candidate on the ticket of the CPP. Remember, in that bid, he came up against certain individuals in that election. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it to win that election in 2008. We know who won at the time. John Evans Atamils of blessed memory won that election in 2008 after quite a heated competition. Dr. Nduom was nominated by the party in that year, 2007, into that election to contest. He lost the elections, getting less than 1% of the total votes cast. And then in 2011, after that election in 2008, he broke away from the CPP. We know there was some infighting that happened at the time. He broke away, formed his own political party, which is what we know today as the Progressive People's Party. He was looking to chart his own path with his own ideals and what he thinks should be the way forward for his political career in this country. That's what happened in the run-up to the 2012 elections. He contested again in that election in 2012. We know the verdict. He still could not make more than 1% in that election. In fact, he got 0.58% in the 2012 election. So that will be just a quick wrap of his political career in Ghana and what he's up against in the 2016 elections in the country today. Evans Mensah, head of our political desk, joins me now for some quick analysis on this man and whether or not the chances look grimmer or better looking into this elections in 2016. Evans, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Francis.
So, quick background we brought here for the man, Dr. Nduom. Tomorrow, he will be outdoors as the party's flag bearer looking into the 2016 elections. This will be his third time of asking. Is this time any different from the past, concerning that he's done this twice and he's doing this for the very third time?
My prediction is that he will do better than he did in 2012. In 2012, in the grand scheme of things, he did far better than most people expected. He just formed a political party, broke away from the CPP, and did better than the CPP on his own, and the PNC. If you look at it in those terms, we've been crying for a third political force in our electoral democracy. PPP, as we stand now, appears to be that force. In terms of its reach, in terms of its ability to engage in public advocacy, and in terms of the numbers that they won in the last elections, considering the fact that they had just shown up on the scene. This year, he's going to do far better than he did last 4 years. Also because of the network he's established across the country, he has businesses all over the place. He has employed thousands of people. What that means is that he has a certain ripple effect. If he's employed you, possibly your wife, your children, it has this knock-on effect. I'm not saying it's automatic, but the likelihood of that being to his benefit is higher than it being against him. And we've seen that in the 2012 elections. And so he's no pushover, and he's not going to be a pushover in this year's elections. In fact, if I am NDC or MPP, I'll be trying to court the PPP.
To water down their stakes here in this election?
Well, it would be good to associate it, because what that means is everybody knows that Dr. Nduom will not win elections, but he can't pull off a 1%.
Is there a reason
or
you
1.5%.
say there is no chance he can win this election?
He can't, obviously, because we are a two-party state. That's what it is. I mean,
people totally disagree with you.
Well, they can disagree, but the evidence, the facts, the numbers in the elections since 1992 show that we are a two-party state. I mean, the NDC and the MPP are the parties that we have in the country that can win an election. It's as simple as that. Everyone else will struggle to get a 1%, 1.5%, maximum 2%, and that will be it. You know, that's a reality. In fact, if you look at the USA, they have the Democrats, they have the Republicans, but there are other parties. They
which we have
the Green parties there, the Liberals, they are there, but nobody really counts them as part of the democratic process. They have tried to sue the equivalent of the Electoral Commission in the US many times to try and get get an equal hearing. In fact, the Presidential Debate Commission was sued once by the smaller parties in the U.S. because when they hold the presidential election debates, they are excluded. That's the same situation we have in Ghana. So Dr. Nduom will not win, but he has a certain, people like him. And people feel, and he attempts to address it every time he gets the opportunity. People say that if I vote for him, I like him, I know he can do the job, I know he's the best president we probably will never have. And so instead of giving my vote to him, that will not amount to much in the grand scheme of things, I'll probably then give it to one of the other big political parties. And so the key question I'm asking myself is, which of the two political parties can claim that they are most closely associated with him, so that if you are thinking like those who say, I don't want to throw my vote away to Nduom, but I like him, you want to say, which of the two big parties comes close to Dr. Nduom and what he stands for, and so let me give my vote to that party. That is why I'm saying that if I am an NDC or an MPP, I'll be trying to call this PPP and Dr. Nduom.
Okay, now for the example you give, I need to look at it also within this context. Yes, you say that Dr. Nduom cannot win this election because this will be his second time of trying. It's a relatively new party in the scheme of things. But what can he do to build the blocks for the party to become not just a credible third force, but a party that can be looked at seriously to win an election?
He can't do anything. I mean, it's a painful reality to accept. Nobody else can win an election in Ghana unless you're on the ticket of the NDC or an MPP. It's as simple as that. So that won't happen. What he can do, though, is to build this party to the point where he's getting significant percentages in elections that he can decide the elections, but not win it. This is what it means. This is what I'm saying. If you get 5% of the votes, even if you get 1%, you can decide elections. If you get close to 5%, you are deciding elections. In other words, you're taking votes from NDC and from MPP. If it gets to that point, we have the situation in the past in the 90s of Akai and Co. forming a sort of unity government with former President Kufuor, etc., because obviously you need a certain partnership. We've had an alliance formed between the MPP and the other similar political parties, all in a scheme of trying to build a certain coalition to win an election against an incumbent people believe they don't like and can't govern. If he manages to build his portfolio, his party's voting portfolio over time, the other two parties must necessarily get his endorsement or an alliance of a sort, and present a common ticket. In fact, he can even negotiate a vice presidential slot. You know, for me, that's the only realistic opportunity for Dr. Pakwesi Nduom to be at the helm of managing the country. I mean, he's been there before as a minister, but he can't do much as a minister. He did a lot, though, in fact, when he used to be the Minister for Private Sector Reform, etc. He did a lot. But seriously, if you want to change something, even if you get a vice presidential slot, I mean, it's difficult to change, but at least you'll be the head of the economic management team.
Sure.
And he has a lot of skill in that. He's from the bank in the USA, etc., etc. For me, that's the way to go. If you can manage to get 5%, everybody else will stand and listen and pay attention. Begin to look at him a bit more seriously. And he can bargain with the parties. They will necessarily have to come to him and say, we want you on our ticket, and so that you can say, present a unified force. So an Anado Nduom ticket or a John Mahama Nduom ticket. You know, but two parties, it's happened in our history before. As recently in the 90s, we've seen that happen, you know. So it's not impossible, but he needs to work at it.
How about the other side to the coin, Evans, of the PPP looking to win maybe a sizable number of seats in Parliament, then he become a bit more stronger in the scheme of things?
Well, that's another way of looking at it, getting parliamentary seats. That works, but then again, you get 1 or 2 seats. Doesn't change much in Parliament.
You think they can get, what, 10, 20, 50 seats in Parliament?
It's possible. In politics, everything is possible, particularly in the central region.
Because it's a swing region?
You know, the thing about politics in Ghana is the two parties have shared the regions, except for 4 of the regions. Central region is 1. Greater Accra. There's also typically the NDC will win the 3 northern regions, win a Volta region, and the MPP will win Ashanti region, will win the Eastern region,
and part of Western too.
Exactly, but if you have Greater Accra, you have Central, you have Bono Half, and I think you have the Western region. They seem to be the swing regions. So if you look at what Dr. Pakwesi Nduom had done in the Central region, he's done a lot. Last time I was in twice, the last 2 years, I've been going there every year, and I go to his resort, and driving to his resort, he has an industrial enclave, plenty factories, his stadium, etc. The number of people he's employing, his footprint in terms of businesses established in the Central region, he can build the Central region to be his World Bank. I think if strategy-wise, for me, that will be a way to go. And targeting parliamentary seats, that's the point I'm making. So that if we can get a Central region and win 10, 5, 6 seats in the Central region and get them in Parliament, that will be a huge boost for him. But the way our parliamentary system is structured, when you get to Parliament, you must necessarily, it's only majority, minority. There's no middle ground there. So even when you get to Parliament, you must necessarily decide whether you belong to majority or minority. You must necessarily align. That is how our system is. So that again will become an issue for him. But if you have 5 people in Parliament, whether they belong to majority or minority, you negotiate for that.
Yeah.
It still gives you a certain footprint, a certain say in the way the elections pan out, and you have a bigger say at the seat of government in deciding the fate of the country. So he has the option of getting parliamentary. He can do both at the same time, in fact, Francis. He can do both. He can target the Central region, get a bit more votes there, get more parliamentarians from the PPP into Parliament, and then build a portfolio across the country, hoping to get a 2%, 3% vote in elections, and hopefully use that as a bargaining chip to get a seat at the table.
Okay, thank you, Evans. And just to make it clear, what kind of vision that Dr. Nduom is seeking to push in this year's elections. We had an interview with him some time ago where he rolled out exactly what his plan will be and what he will seek to do differently in staking a good claim for himself in this year's elections. And shortly, we'll bring you that interview with Dr. Nduom explaining what exactly his vision is for the country. And as we look ahead to him being acclaimed tomorrow, what kind of ideas he will be seeking to roll out. Job creation, I can tell you, is one of the big things that he's looking to push as a track record of doing enough for the country and as a reason for which Ghanaians should be considering him in this year's elections. We'll bring you that interview in just a moment. But let's bring you some other stories to making the rounds today in the country, because the Ghana Association of Microfinance Companies has washed its hands off, literally, of the microfinance scam in the Volta region. According to the Executive Secretary of the Association, Joe Donko, the companies in question are not registered as microfinance firms but as fund clubs. Therefore, issues regarding their regulation and licensing falls under the Department of Cooperatives. We'll bring you that story in just a moment. But if we will bring you the other interview also involving Dr. Nduom in just a moment. We'll go for a quick break. We'll be back and bring you more here on the program. Stay with us.